If you want to know what could have gone down backstage after Brock Lesnar's shocking return to Raw and how Femi might have reacted to seeing the Beast walk through that curtain, you need to stick around because we're about to break it all down right now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another deep dive into WWE's most pivotal storylines and character moments. We're WWE Express, and this is exactly the kind of analysis that separates us from everyone else covering the business. When Brock Lesnar's music hits, the entire landscape of Raw shifts instantly. There's no subtle build-up, no gradual momentum change. It's a seismic event that immediately forces every wrestler backstage to recalibrate their position in the hierarchy. For someone like Femi, a rising star who's been methodically climbing the ladder and establishing himself as a serious threat in the championship picture, a Lesnar return represents something far more complex than a simple obstacle to overcome. It's a reminder of the ceiling that exists above even the most impressive young talent, and that reality would hit differently depending on where Femi stands in his current storyline. Let's think about what Femi has accomplished up to this point. He's been positioned as a powerhouse with legitimate credibility, someone who moves with intention and purpose. He's not just another tall athlete, there's psychology to how he's being presented, a sense that he understands the gravity of his position and the responsibility that comes with being groomed for bigger opportunities. When word spreads through the locker room that Brock Lesnar has returned, the first thought running through Femi's mind wouldn't be excitement or relief. It would likely be calculation. The backstage reaction to Lesnar's return would be layered and authentic to how wrestlers actually process major news. Initial shock, absolutely. Lesnar doesn't appear regularly, so there's always an element of surprise. But for a young talent like Femi, the secondary reaction matters more. It's the moment where he has to honestly assess how this changes his trajectory. Does Lesnar coming back improve his position or complicate it? Does it open new storytelling opportunities or does it create competition for the biggest matches and the premium feuds that establish main event credibility? Think about the timing of a Lesnar return in relation to Femi's current status. If is in the middle of a strong push toward a major championship opportunity, Lesnar's presence becomes immediately relevant. The Beast brings a different kind of credibility. He's the kind of opponent that's reserved for the absolute highest level of performer. Being positioned to face Lesnar, or even being acknowledged in the same conversation as Lesnar, becomes a statement about where management believes you belong. Conversely, being overlooked when Lesnar returns, being treated as too green or not on that level yet, sends a very different message. The private conversation between Femi and management would be fascinating to consider. In that moment, after Lesnar's segment airs and the backstage footage shows the reaction, would likely seek clarity. He'd want to understand whether Lesnar's return changes his current program, whether it affects his positioning going forward, and crucially, whether his push continues regardless of this new element. A confident young talent being groomed for stardom would approach this conversation not from a place of intimidation but from a place of professional curiosity. He'd want to know where he stands. What's particularly interesting about Femi's perspective on Lesnar is the generational dynamic it creates. Represents the future. He's part of the wave of talent that's meant to carry WWE into its next era. Lesnar, despite his periodic returns, represents a different era. He's the kind of performer who transcends normal positioning because of his legitimate combat sports background and his proven drawing power. For seeing Lesnar return isn't necessarily a threat in the traditional sense. It's more of a standard to aspire toward, a benchmark of what it looks like when you become so valuable that you can operate on your own schedule. The psychology of backstage dynamics after such a major announcement would heavily influence Femi's mindset going forward. If he's being positioned as someone who could eventually challenge Lesnar or cross paths with him in a major program, that's a massive credibility boost. It suggests that WWE sees him as being on a trajectory where he'll eventually be elevated to that level. If instead he's kept separate from the Lesnar storyline entirely, that sends a different message. Perhaps he's still being developed, still working on the fundamentals before being thrown into the deep end with someone of Lesnar's magnitude. Consider too the locker room politics that would immediately emerge. Veteran wrestlers would be paying attention to who gets positioned to interact with Lesnar. There's a finite number of high-level opportunities, and Lesnar's presence creates a competition where only certain performers can credibly share a program with him. Femi would be acutely aware of this competition. He might see it as motivation, as proof that if he continues to elevate his craft and his presentation, he'll eventually reach that level. Or he might see it as a validation of the path he's already on. If management is keeping him in the mix during a Lesnar program, they clearly believe in him. The silence that might come from Femi in the immediate aftermath of Lesnar's return could be just as telling as any public statement. A young professional wrestler who's being taken seriously doesn't panic or make emotional declarations when the landscape shifts. Instead, he takes it in, processes it, and mentally recalibrates his approach. He might intensify his training, sharpen his in-ring work, and demonstrate through his performance that he belongs in any conversation about top talent, Lesnar or otherwise. If Femi does speak publicly about Lesnar's return, the framing would be crucial. Is he positioning himself as someone who wants to prove himself against the best? Is he staying focused on his current program while acknowledging the significance of Lesnar's presence? Is he making veiled comments about where he stands compared to past generations? A truly credible young talent wouldn't dismiss Lesnar, but he also wouldn't seem intimidated. He'd respect the legend while subtly suggesting that the bar has been set and he's prepared to meet it. What makes this situation narratively compelling is that Lesnar's returns always force a realignment. It's not just about one match or one feud, it's about the entire structure of the show adjusting around his presence. For Femi, it's an opportunity to prove that he's not just a talented young wrestler filling time slots. It's a chance to demonstrate that he understands the bigger picture, that he can navigate the complexities of a talent-filled roster, and that he has the mentality of someone destined for main event status. The real story isn't what Femi says backstage, it's what he does in the ring moving forward. If his work becomes sharper, if his promos take on a new edge, if he carries himself with even more confidence and purpose, that's the actual break of silence. That's him communicating to everyone watching, from the fans at home to the wrestlers backstage to the front office making the decisions, that a Brock Lesnar return doesn't diminish him. It clarifies him. It highlights exactly where he fits in the grand scheme of WWE's talent landscape and why he matters. Every rising star in WWE faces a moment where the old guard returns and reminds everyone that there's a level that exists above where you currently stand. How you respond to that moment, not with words necessarily, but with your work, your mindset, and your continued elevation, determines whether you're truly destined for the main event or whether you're just another talented performer in a loaded roster. For Femi, this is one of those moments, and the way he navigates it over the coming weeks will tell us everything we need to know about his future. If this kind of deep character and storyline analysis is exactly what you're looking for in your wrestling content, subscribe to WWE Express right now. We go beyond the surface-level recaps and really dig into the psychology, the narrative intention, and the storytelling implications of everything happening in WWE. We'd love to have you part of our community, so hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on WWE Express.